Your dreams are bigger, bolder, and more badass than the life you're living now, but something just keeps getting in the way. Join certified coach and former therapist Diane Wingert for the Driven Woman podcast. She'll show you how to get rid of whatever is holding you back so you can stop spinning your wheels and up-level your life. Get ready to hop in and buckle up. This is the Driven Woman podcast, and we're heading for the fast lane.
Well, hey there, Driven Woman. I'm really excited to bring you my interview today with Tricia Dempsey. You know, if you've ever met someone that immediately after meeting, you just feel like you've been friends your whole life and you can stay friends for the rest of your life and never get bored of one another, Tricia is just that kind of woman. We had a very interesting conversation about growing up at a time when if you wanted to be in sales or other careers that were deemed masculine, you didn't get a lot of approval, especially not from dear old dad. So she was allowed to play basketball. That was okay. But when she wanted to go into the sales career, she got a hard no for that. So what did she do? Well, like most women, she went into the socially sanctioned career path for females, in her case, teaching, which she did very well and for a fairly long time until she simply could not face a room full of middle schoolers anymore. Tricia left teaching for the business world and, like many of us, discovered she was building someone else's dream while doing most of the work and generating most of the revenue. Sound familiar? Well, this continued until a cancer diagnosis was the wake-up call she needed. And Tricia started her own business without even waiting to finish treatment. Today, Tricia is the CEO of Thrive Her, which is a vibrant online community helping entrepreneurial women build their own business and provides them with support, coaching, content, and community. These women are experienced and skillful, but just don't know how to take that next step on their own. So we had a fascinating conversation. We compared our StrengthsFinder top 5. We talked about how it feels to be climbing the wrong ladder, starting over more than once, being a super tall woman. I'm 5'10" and Tricia is 6 feet. And of course, being a driven woman with ambition. Before I share our conversation, I'd like to share this week's pod praise, which comes from fellow life coach Audrey Lawless, who writes, "Thank you, Diane, for being so authentic on this podcast. Your excellence really stands out, and I'm excited to continue listening for all the remaining episodes." Well, Audrey, thank you for listening, and thank you for this awesome review. Well, without any further delay, I really can't wait to share my conversation with Tricia Dempsey because there are so many women who would make awesome entrepreneurs if they only knew how to discover and take their next step. Here we go. So Tricia, your community is full of women who I call late to the party entrepreneurs. They aged out of their corporate job, they got pushed out, or they had a COVID-induced walk down the plank. And something I've been wanting to ask you ever since we first connected is, do you believe that there's a difference between women who choose entrepreneurship and those who are kind of forced into it?
That's such an interesting question. So when I think about the majority of women in my community, they did not come initially to my community to choose entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. What ended up happening, and so I think most of the women, going back to your question, most of the women in our community chose freedom, chose impact, chose alignment with passion, chose unlimited income earning potential, and they had a safe place to do it, to take that step. And even if they changed their mind and decided they were not going to fully pursue it and take that step, there was such a safe community to do it in that I think they felt like they had the courage, the true courage to take it. So none of them started out. So I'd say most people, I think I have this belief that you're either kind of born with the DNA to be independent and be able to be a leader, or you have a forced upon you circumstance, which is kind of how I started my first business post breast cancer. You had a forced upon circumstance that said, okay, life is pointing you in a different direction. And given all of the circumstances, here's the best fit for me right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I think women mostly choose freedom, impact, passion, unlimited earning potential. I want to be my own boss. I think that's what they mostly choose. I don't think they fully understand, and I'd be curious for this view, I don't think they fully understand what running a business is.
You're damn right about that.
so they choose they choose the feeling that they want at the end of the day when they're closing their laptop at the end of the day. And I think that's what most women choose.
I knew you were going to deliver an awesome answer to that unexpected question, because you're right. And when I think about all the different ways that people try to get people to sign up for things or join things like multi-level marketing and things like that, what do they always offer? Fun, freedom, flexibility, more time with your family.
Yes.
Make a difference.
Health. Those types of things. I just read a book on vacation, the $1 million business, the non-employee $1 million business, because I'm kind of fascinated with that concept.
Mm-hmm.
And that was first third of her book was, here's the reason people choose. And most of them, happenstance into entrepreneurship. I find that most people don't plan this 3-year journey. And then on this date, I'm going to launch my business. It's like, somebody got sick in my family. I got sick. I didn't get that promotion. Something happened. This circumstance shifted the universe for me. And now this is the best next step for me. I think that's really how it happens.
It totally makes sense, Tricia, because when you think about it, I want to make some broad gender generalizations, but for most women, our lives are centered around other people we care about.
Yeah.
So when we make decisions about what we want to be, who we want to be, what we want to do, where we want to spend our time, energy, effort, where we want to devote our talents, most of us are taking into consideration how those choices will impact the people we care about, whether it's a spouse, a partner, whether there are children, grown and flown or still in the nest, whether there are aging parents that need care or oversight or decision-making, extended family, neighbors, friends, community, a faith community. So women are usually in a web of relationships. And so when we think about our career path, our financial future, it's how will this affect the other, even pets.
That's right.
I had a woman tell me the reason why she decided to go out on her own is because she had an aging dog.
Wow.
And she didn't want the dog to be in daycare anymore. She wanted to be the
I can relate to
companion.
that.
I just had to put down the oldest of our 3 dogs at 16. And if I was not an entrepreneur working from home, I would not have been able to carry her out every 30 minutes because that's how often she peed for the last year of her life.
Yes.
So you're right. It's like we want freedom, we want flexibility, and we don't want someone else determining not necessarily our worth, but our financial security. And,
that's right.
But I think it takes most women a long time to realize that what they've got isn't enough, because tell me if I'm wrong, a woman who wants more usually has some negative labels attached to her by others and sometimes by herself. Why can't I just be satisfied?
Yeah.
Because you're not, and it's okay.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. So, what a curious thing to think about further, and I'm sure we'll get into it a little bit more in your questions today. But what a great comment.
Well, I was fascinated by your story because you, like many women of our generation, were given some feedback about what was appropriate for you as a path, as a choice. You saw that your dad was in sales and you thought, I think I would like that. I think I'd be good at that. But you nope, that's not for girls.
Yeah.
And so you chose one of the socially sanctioned choices from our time. You're either going to be a teacher, a nurse, a secretary, or a social worker or a housewife. And beyond that, that's a hard no. Why did you choose teacher? Was it random or any particular reason?
Well, I have always had the heart of a teacher. And I think even what I do today is so much teaching, right? It's interesting to come full circle. And if you've ever read Oprah's book about kind of her journey, she even considers herself like at the core, she's a teacher. That's what she considers herself.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I always had the heart of a teacher. And then when I got teaching, I was like, holy hell, these seventh graders are going to put me in an early grade. And for me, I literally thought, one day I came home and thought, I don't want to have my own children. This is a problem. This is a problem. I'm with 120 kids all day long. And when I come home, I have nothing left. And so I still to this day think teaching is the hardest profession that I've ever done. And yet I feel like I teach every day. So whether it's coaching somebody how to do sales better or teaching somebody a framework or a process, I feel like teaching is what I default back onto even more so than coaching. And as a matter of fact, I did a Bible study a couple of years ago, and I keep my little sticky here in front of me. My 3 words from my this is Blueprint for Life: Christ, connect, and coach. That was a 15-year ago Bible study. And so when I think about like what I really feel aligned with, it's connecting with people and either teaching them something that helps them get to the next step or the next level. That's just kind of in the DNA of who I am, for sure.
But maybe it just needs to be adults.
Yeah, not in the context of 7th graders ever again, ever again. But I ended up almost marrying a guy who was a pastor, and I'll never forget this. I was going in my senior year of college at that time, and I was going to be a teacher. And he said, listen, come live in North Carolina with me. And by the way, why don't you just not finish your senior year and help me with my ministry for the next year? And I remember thinking, and I did not marry him, by the way. And I remember
dodged a bullet.
I remember thinking, what in the world are you talking about? Of course I'm going to get my degree, and I'm 1 year away, and I'm going to become a teacher. So I was very proud. I feel like teaching such a notable profession, but it is still a part of what I did when I was in sales. It's still a part of what I do when I was an entrepreneur. It's still a part of what I do when I'm coaching. So I feel like at the core, I'm a teacher by heart, but for the purposes of helping people take the next step, for sure.
Well, you're selling them on the next step. I think it's a beautiful turn of the wheel that even though, and I love how you say this on your website, you were climbing the wrong ladder.
Yeah.
I always imagine, sometimes we're so focused on what we're doing next that we don't pay attention to the fact that the ladders are against the wrong mall, wrong building, wrong city. Right. But the notion that everybody needs to, if you want to lead people, if you want to have impact, if you want to make a difference in a life of significance and create community, you do need to be a teacher on some degree.
Yeah.
But if you also want to build a business and be a good parent, even a good spouse, you have to learn how to sell too, because selling is basically just reaching agreement on something of mutual benefit. And when you do it well, you're not taking advantage. You're not manipulating. You are having a mutual exchange of benefit. And so
I have this concept that, just a personal value of advocacy and building advocates. And I define that as mutually beneficial relationships between people who become passionate about one of those success. So you and I will be advocates, I'm sure, after this podcast, but I'll want to see you succeed. And naturally, I feel like the universe wants to see me succeed when I'm invested in people that way in a lot of ways. And so, I'm a very proud teacher and very proud salesperson too. I think sales is a very noble profession.
I agree. My first career was in sales, and I am very proud about that. And I think a lot of female entrepreneurs, especially those that are coming late to the party, one of the first obstacles is getting over their aversion to sales because, culturally, sales is usually considered a male profession, and it's also considered to be somewhat sleazy. Yes. So when women say, I want to have my own business as long as I don't have to sell anything, it's like, then you won't have a business.
It's not for you. It's not for you. But you know what? I teach a little a module inside of our course around selling. And first question I asked was, when you think about a salesperson, what do you visually come to mind? Of course, the used car salesman, the person who's pressuring people at Costco to buy the memberships, all of the things. And then, we get to, have you ever had a great experience with a salesperson? What did that feel like? They were a good listener.
Mm-hmm.
They really wanted to understand my needs. They really wanted to help me see where the challenges could be, the roadblocks could be avoided, or I could help them get around roadblocks. And they gave me something that made total sense for helping me get to my ultimate goal. So I think there's such an authentic way to get a sale, but you have to be comfortable. I call it just one conversation. It really is as simple as that. It's really, it's not a hard pitch or a hard sell. It's really just a conversation. That's the way I look at it.
I have had very negative experiences with selling and very positive, memorable ones. I used to have a bad attitude towards real estate professionals.
Yeah.
When I first learned that there were people making a shit ton of money selling something that didn't belong to them, my brain was like, wait, what? You're making a ton of money by selling things that don't belong to you. I don't understand. But when we moved from Los Angeles to Portland 2 years ago,
yeah,
we had the most exceptional experience with a father-daughter team.
It's still rare.
Oh, right? They were so awesome that I consider them lifelong friends. I was happy to pay them a lot of money because they did everything from babysitting our dogs on the day of our move to one time when we sold a car because we realized we were both going to be working from home and we had one car too many. Yeah. So he happened to call me, the gentleman, and he said, "Where are you?" And I said, I'm at CarMax. I just sold a car. He says, "I'm not far from there. Can I give you a ride home?" I mean, just,
oh my gosh.
But just
above and beyond.
Yeah, I was more than happy to spend that money. And what I realized is that when you really are providing a valuable service or product, that's the experience you can create.
That's right. And that's how you create advocates, right? I mean, you would talk about them. You'll probably tag them in the show notes. Like you would refer them without any fear of recommendation, because that's how you feel when somebody's taking good care of you. So
absolutely.
I love it.
I wanted to ask you, I know you're very open about your former cancer diagnosis and that was the, like from bald to business owner kind of thing, that like not too many people would make that leap. Mm-hmm. And obviously you seem to have entrepreneurship in your DNA. You were somebody who tried to work with the socially sanctioned norms for girls, but eventually it's like, no, this isn't right for me. I need to do more. Was there something in particular about having cancer that not only you could define your own hours as an entrepreneur, but was there anything more to that decision?
I was the president of another company with two other business owners at the time. And I had worked for the father for 7 years and the son worked for me. And when we had started that business together 3 years in, we had done maybe $3 million of revenue and I had done like 2.7 of it. So I was feeling the inequity already. I had already had multiple conversations like, hey, we've got to get this more equitable and we've got to
guys, I'm floating your boat here.
And then when I got cancer, I went to them and said, hey, I don't know what this journey is going to be like. Somebody's got to step up. We did some shuffling around of responsibilities. Nothing changed dramatically. And literally, Diane, after probably a very frustrating day of some conversation with one of them, I drove home and I said to Jeff, I took out our credit cards and I was like, that one has 30K and that one has 25K and that one has 25K and that one has 30K. And I said, here's the deal. Larry gave us $40,000 to start that business. We made it back almost immediately. I think this is a very low risk. And my husband was like, okay, cool. When your hair grows back and you're like, when you're done chemo. And I was like, no, like Monday. And here's the way I think I operate this way. And in a lot of ways, I could look at lots of stories where I'm very long suffering and very loving with people and very, very patient. And then one day I wake up and I just don't love you anymore. And I don't know where that comes from, but that is like
Girl, you will not believe the synchronicity of this. I literally just had a conversation last night, just a few hours ago, where I said, one of the things I hear from so many women is, it took me a long time to get here,
Yes.
But when I'm done,
I'm done.
I'm done.
I'm done.
I was a therapist for 25 years. I don't even understand what that's about, but
Yeah.
it seems to be something unique to women where we tolerate. And then we get to the end of that rope and it just frays and then snaps and
I think
there's
it's
no
like
going back.
It's like an incongruence in my self-esteem, my self-worth. And I get to where I look at myself and I can't stand myself that I'm putting up with something after such a long time. And then all of a sudden I'm like, today's the day. That's the end. And so that's what happened. I went back in. My husband was not expecting it. I went back in on Monday and resigned. And these guys were guys I considered the father like a dad. I considered the son like a brother. I've never talked to them again. And not because I didn't want that, but because that's the way that they felt when I finally resigned. And I didn't have a non-compete. We didn't do non-competes. So I started my business the next day, and in 30 days I had revenue, and in a year I did $1 million. And I was like, wow, why did I ever put up with that? And here's another thing, and I know you'll understand this. I thought I needed them. So here's how that happened in the first place. I went to them after I was working for the dad for 7 years. He had sold the business. We had gotten sold again. And I finally went to him and said, hey, you told me when I'm not having fun anymore to come in and let you know. I just had Catherine. She's 6 months old. I'm seeing her like a half an hour every day based on how this schedule works here. So I'm going to start my own business. I just want to give you a heads up as a courtesy. It's been great to work with you. And he was like, whoa. Let me give you some money. And let you take this gray hair and all the wisdom I can give you and make sure that I shepherd you through this journey. And I really felt like I needed that. And so I took on a partner. I think this is a good lesson for all your entrepreneur listeners. I just don't believe in taking on a partner from day one unless there is a clear distinction between the value of each partner, because you don't know what your business is going to be for 2 or 3 years. You just don't. And how things end up ebbing and flowing and changing over the years might be good for one partner and completely not good for another. And it's just like a divorce. I don't care what anybody tells you. It's just like a divorce.
Partnerships are the worst. Yes. Business configuration with the highest failure rate. But what I have to dig further into this, Tricia, because this to me is the most fascinating thing. When I decided to start my psychotherapy practice, I believed that I needed to go in with somebody else.
Yep.
It was my default assumption. I can't do this by myself.
That's right.
For no other reason than the fact that I hadn't done it before. So I'm like, but every single thing we do as humans, we do for the first time. Walking, talking, eating alone, like going to school, completing our degree. Like every single thing we do, we're doing for the first time, and we manage to keep putting one foot in front of the other. But women, so often, their default assumption is, it would be safer.
Yes.
Not more fun, not more interesting, not more lucrative.
Not more money.
Not more money, honey. It would be safer to do this with someone else, someone with more experience, someone who knows better. Because what is the unspoken belief there? I can't. I'll fail. I need help. And most of the time, I think back to doing group projects from elementary all the way up through graduate school. I hate group projects. You know why? For the same reason why you probably hate them. Because you do all the freaking work. And then everybody else is getting the A and you're like, whoa, homie, you didn't even show up to the meetings.
Here's the thing. When I finally broke off on my own, operations was the area that I struggled the most in. And I remember I met with my mentor, who was a man who had run a business similar to mine for 30 something years. And I was in tears. Like, I don't even know how much cash I have in the bank. I have no idea. Like, is my cash, it's same thing as my checking account? Like, what is going on? And how much should I pay myself? And I was so distraught about it. And he said, listen, you just need to hire a bookkeeper and you're fine. So for $350 a month, I got like the cheapest business partner ever. And totally started to understand my cash flow, got a financial coach and understood like how things work, when I can make investments, what my profitability would look like, how taxes are impacted. And I thought, oh my gosh, I learned all that in a couple of months. Why would I ever get a business partner for that?
But hold on a second, back the F up here. Did you just say a minute ago Did you just say a minute ago that you made $1 million?
My first year.
Your first year in business, in your previous business, and you were doing the majority of the work, even though you had two partners, and you didn't know diddly squat about money?
I didn't know anything because I had one partner who would do the books at the end of the day. I did the invoicing, but then like closing the books and all the thing. And we never discussed a P&L because when I worked for him, I was the sales leader. So I discussed down to the gross profit line, and that's what I was paid on. So that's all I really understood. But then I didn't understand the expense line and the net income line. I didn't understand the tax implications, depreciation, amortization, any of that. And then once I got with a bookkeeper for literally $300 a month, I was like, oh, okay, walk me through a P&L. Let's walk through that a couple of months. Okay, got it. So that's literally how I learned it. But I struggled with that. I came home one day, I had the Small Business Administration come out, who I was in this program that I had gotten a scholarship to, and the SBA kind of handled this one piece of it, and they sent out a coach for you. He came out to look at my QuickBooks one day, and I came home, I was in tears. And I'll never forget, I was laying in the bed that night with my daughter.
There's a lot of crying going on back in those days.
I was crying, and I said, Mommy, I don't think I'm meant to run a business because, this is crazy. I don't know. I don't understand this whole cash thing. And my daughter was like 5 years old, and she grabbed me by the face in the bed. We were laying like pillow to pillow, and she grabbed me by the face. She goes, Mommy, you're so good at what you do. Don't quit. And I remember my husband saying to me at dinner that night, you're not supposed to be an expert at the books, Trish. Get somebody to do the books and keep going. And at that time, that felt scary. It felt vulnerable. It felt all of the things that you don't want to feel. And I just didn't want to show it to anybody. It felt like being naked in front of someone. And once I got past that,
then they'll know.
Okay. Now I know.
This is so classic.
Yeah.
Gender difference. Here you are, a bona fide badass woman, businesswoman, who has this thought, I don't know how to do this. I should know how to do this.
Yes.
I
feel guilty
be able
and
to do it. I feel guilty and shameful because I don't know how to do it. And actually getting help in this area is not a smart business move. It is an admission of weakness,
that's right.
of incompetence. Right.
Why didn't I get my MBA? Because if I had my MBA, I'd understand some of this. And now
I know all kinds of MBAs who don't know squat about running a business.
And I would never recommend that now, which is so funny.
No. Get an MBA by starting your own business and learn as you go. But your husband gave you the advice that men give other men and always have. Oh, you don't need to do that. Hire someone.
Yeah.
Every successful woman I know, that is one of the things she had to unlearn.
Yeah.
We don't have to do all the things. In fact, if we do, we will slow our roll to a screeching halt.
Yeah.
You hire people who know how to do the things you don't know how to do.
Solopreneur myth 386. I have to do all the things myself, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. It's I know we both love the Strength Finder. And it's one of the reasons why it's such a useful tool, because when you realize, oh, these are my natural gifts and my natural way of doing things. So I need to find people who have other natural gifts and ways of doing things so that we can all rise together.
That's right. I always like looking when I do a Strengths Finder on somebody, I look at the top 5 immediately and I look at the bottom 5 immediately. And I literally will say, what does this mean in terms of what kind of support this person really needs? Because this is never going to be something they're going to enjoy or love or get energy from or find fulfilling. So we need to immediately identify, hey, listen, you're going to struggle more than likely with these 3 or 4 things, which means I've got a couple of ways that you can solve that, versus trying to overcompensate and be in this overcompensation energy that's exhausting. And then you feel like a failure because you just aren't good at it. I used to close the door and do QuickBooks every Tuesday, and it would take me like 6 hours to do something my accountant took like an hour and a half to do.
Yep.
And I just double checking things and going back and making sure that I was like, this is crazy. So that's the best money I spend every month still to this day.
Do you still think you're bad at money? Not making it, but managing it or dealing with it?
I'm so good at money now. I'm so good at money. Mostly because I had a coach. I had this guy named Bill McDermott that I'd hired, who I would say is like a CFO kind of coach. And he was really a banker. The reason I hired him is because I needed a line of credit for the business to grow it. And Bill came and looked at my books and said, okay. And he was great. He said, okay, Trish, out of your books, to get to an approve rate for the banker, these two things need to happen. And he said, and I want you to focus on just these two things until you're ready. And he said, I think we'll be ready by October. We got ready by July. Like once I understood those two things, I was like, whoa, like
you're such a quick start.
There was a focus that was like, okay, now I understand. Okay, let me change my comp plan. Let me change this. Let me move this. Let me move this. Let me cancel these expenses. And then let's get some consistency around this. And we were ready by, literally 90 days later, we were having a conversation. I remember he took me to lunch that day and he said, okay, congratulations, we're ready. I didn't think we'd be ready yet, but we're ready. And we went out and got a line of credit and had multiple offers from multiple banks. But that was a big lesson. And he was a big teacher for me in that. But again, I paid him, a couple $100 a month to teach me that. I didn't need a business partner. I didn't
Best money ever spent.
Best money ever.
Anybody listening to this episode who's thinking it's safer to have a partner, hit your head against the wall several times until that thought is dispelled. No, don't do that. But you get the point. Like if you think about just a couple $100 for this person and a $300 for that person and all the headaches you would have saved. Yeah. I had a couple questions to ask you, Tricia. Have you stayed in contact with your old teaching colleagues, and what did they think when you left teaching to start a business? Did you get grief from anybody?
One of them was a dear friend of mine, and she was a 35-year-old teacher, and her husband became my very first client. Is that crazy? He worked at the CDC, and I went out and said, would Jim meet with me? And she said, sure, Jim will meet with you. And I went out and I sold it. And I came back to the office and I said to my boss, I think I just sold the CDC. And he was like, what in the hell? You're like a 1-month salesperson. But I just kind of understood the relationship piece and I knew how to ask for help. And he kind of shepherded me through. So she thought that it was be a fantastic fit for me. I think she knew I was struggling. We talked together for years. She knew I struggled with sitting in my classroom all day long. Like I am not the person that likes to sit
around. You need to be moving.
And then the daily lesson plan, like there were things that were clues that it was not going to be a long-term fit. And she thought it was fantastic. I think, and she was almost close to retirement. So probably was 60 something at that time, which that was 25, 30 years ago. And I think she was just a huge encouragement of that for sure.
Have you had any detractors as you've gone along? Because it's been my experience that some people are very threatened when women do well, when women make money, when women succeed, when women have power, when we literally take up more space.
Yeah. I would say that, I am married to the best human being ever. This guy, Jeff Dempsey, that I've been married to for 25 years now, who has always believed in my crazy, always thought that I was going to be a rock star no matter what I decided to pick up and do. So he's been who I care about the most, and my daughter too. My dad is one of those who's so proud of me and highly encourages. Sorry, my landscaper's here today.
I hear the buzzing.
I'm sorry about that.
It's okay.
But my dad, who really is very proud and thinks I can do anything, is also his constant coaching to me is, it's nice to have a couple $1 million in the bank, babe, but the good news is you do, and the bad news is you could have zero in the bank tomorrow, babe. He always comes from a scarcity standpoint. So his scarcity is something that I've over time had to separate myself from a lot more. Like I won't even discuss it with him. And I love him and I know he wants the best for me, but his experience has been scarcity and mine has been abundance. And so I really believe that anything that I focus on grows, and I've never not been successful. Now the journey has been challenging, but I always believe the outcome will be success. And it's just my belief system about who I am. Like, I think I'm a winner. I think I'm a person that you would want on your team regardless. And I think I'm a great boss. I think I'm a great partner. I think I'm a good wife. Like, I think I do things generally well. But I'll tell you, my husband, I will say at the same time, my husband and daughter, the day I came home and told them I was going to sell my other business, I felt like they were going to be so disappointed. And it was the hardest thing. I remember talking to my coach, crying in this little phone closet. And he finally said, hey, listen, let's work on solving a different problem. Let's work on the problem of selling your business. And I just was in tears. It was my baby. It was my identity. It was so tied to it.
Mm-hmm.
I came home that day and told my husband and daughter, I thought they were going to be like, gosh, you quit? You're quitting? That kind of feel. And they popped champagne and were so happy. And over the next 2 years, I just kind of got my life back with them. So when I went to go start this business, the Thriver business, I really worried. Now, they didn't say this. I really worried that they wouldn't support it because the last business was such a life-sucking, soul-sucking business by the end. And I think I was very concerned that they were just going to say, they even said for the longest time, why can't you just have a normal job? Why can't you just listen? You're making a lot of money and you have complete freedom and you live wherever you want to and you go wherever and do whatever you want to. Why can't you just stay with the company? And I had a massive disagreement around the value of the leadership of my company that had bought me. After 5 years, I was like, I'm done. I'm so done with this. And I was so grateful for the experience, but I really got a lot of pushback from my family of like, why can't you just be like a normal person who makes good money at this point and has it easy? And I was like, wait a minute, what?
Boring.
That's so boring. That's so boring. And, like to shift from technical recruiting into coaching, it was such a stimulating thing to learn so many new things. I don't know if you felt this way going from therapy to coaching. It was so stimulating. I was like constantly, I come in every day like, you're not going to believe what I learned today. You're not going to believe how marketing's done here. You're not going to believe how this works. And so it was quickly, and I think they would say now, I'm the happiest I've ever been. I'm the most aligned with what I'm meant to do here on earth. And then it shows in how I show up at home too. And that's made all the difference for sure.
I think the fact that you're a serial entrepreneur is the personality type.
Yeah.
And you've used the expression, I was done.
Yeah.
I think you're somebody who knows herself well and thinks appropriately highly of herself. Mm-hmm. And you recognize when something is complete with you.
Yeah.
When it's run its course. And if you continue it beyond that point of completion, the joy, the excitement, maybe not the profitability, but your why, your reason for being, your sense of purpose, your sense of satisfaction, it starts to diminish your drive and you're just kind of calling it in. And I think when you reach that point, you owe it to everyone, especially yourself, to say it's time to stop, drop, and roll and do something new because you totally reboot your system when you do. Right. You go back into that creation, building, ideation mode.
Impactful.
It's so stimulating. I love starting something new. It's really exciting to help other women start something new or level up. Because like you, I think helping people that are beginners can be very challenging because there's so much self-doubt.
Yeah.
But someone who's already kind of rolling, they've got a little tread on their tires. They are invested. They're committed. They want to get to the next level.
Yeah.
That is very exciting because usually there's stuff that's holding you back. And usually it's mindset. It's not skill.
It is.
But it's really fun to sort of take the brake off so they can really speed up. And I know you feel the same. I wanted to ask you, you mentioned earlier about kind of that 90-day container. And I know that when it comes to goal setting and productivity, a lot of productivity coaches talk about 90-day sprints, 90-day goals. And I know that you have a program called Fully Booked in 90 Days. And you mentioned earlier what you were able to accomplish in 90 days. What is the significance of 90 days for you? How did you figure that out? And why is that amount of time meaningful?
Any significant change I've ever made has happened in that container. Isn't that funny? Like anytime I've said, you think about weight loss, running a 5K, standing up a program at my church, getting a new product built, anything. I usually have done it in 90-day sprints. I'm a sprinter versus a marathoner in life. This is the way I'm geared. And so if somebody said you have to do this for a year and you're going to be ready, I would be like, oh, there's no way in hell I'm going to finish it. Like I just feel the angst of it. So for me, 90 days feels so doable. I feel like I can reward myself in increments of 30 days. I feel like I can see progress. I map out my milestones. I know exactly where I should be at any given time. And I map my calendar out and kind of block it off accordingly. And I just think there's something for me magical about 90 days. And I'm starting to almost believe that that can even happen in 30 days. So I've done most of the most significant things in the last year over a 30-day period where I've just said, I'm going to sprint for this period and then I'm going to rest. And I literally have it blocked off that way on my calendar. It's like sprint, sprint, rest, rest, sprint, sprint, rest, rest, sprint, sprint, rest, rest. Because I need the rest and downtime, but I like to go hard. And I think it must be the athlete in me. Like you get back in conditioning for basketball, you go a good 90 days ahead of time and you're in tip top shape by the time you start being able to handle the ball and do drills and all the things that you can do. And I don't know, I just thrive on short interval goal setting.
It totally makes sense to me because I think most people, it's one of the reasons why I stopped being a therapist and I became a coach. Because what I realized over time is therapy's open-ended.
Yeah.
You never really know when you're done.
Yes.
So to me, after the initial trauma, loss, abuse, whatever problem we're dealing with is addressed, the additional benefits start to slow down and become incremental. And then it kind of feels like you're just maintaining. So I started thinking, instead of thinking about helping people as being kind of this open-ended work in progress, what if I say, this is how long we're going to work together? Let's be very specific about the outcomes we want to achieve and be, in agreement about our expectations. And let's go for that goal and measure as we go along. Well, by the time I really started feeling that's the way I want to work, I realized you're a coach.
Yeah, well,
that's a coaching model.
I was about to say that because the thing that's interesting about therapy is you're looking backwards to understand the clues to why you are where you are.
That's the other thing I didn't like.
Both of us are futurists, right? So, my number one strength is future. And so it's getting stuck for any length of time in the past feels, I get into victim mentality. I get into these types of things. And I feel empowered. I believe we make the life we make by the decisions that we make, which means I have to be able to look forward. I can do nothing about the decisions I made in the past. It's all about the decisions I'm making for the future. So I feel energized in the future. I feel exhausted thinking about the past.
Same.
Yeah.
Well, logistically, also I think from a mental wellness, mental health perspective, if we think about the future without a plan, we create anxiety.
Yes.
If we think about the past, about which we can do nothing, we tend to get depressed. The brain has a negativity bias. So we don't tend to think about our achievements, our accolades, our, the rewards and celebrations. We tend to go back and dig through the trash, I say, thinking about unfinished business, regrets, bad choices. And there's nothing you can do about that. So I think it just makes so much more sense to be. And I love the 90-day because that's a reasonable amount of time where even a big goal can be achieved, but you stay in momentum through that whole time because you're not leaving a lot of room for slowing down. Yeah. Anybody can stay in momentum for that amount of time, knowing that there's going to be a rest afterwards. It just keeps you at a high idle.
If I even kind of went one layer below that to just take one layer back on that process that might help your audience, because I know your folks are thinking about how to focus more all the time too, is I subscribe to Franklin Covey's 4 Disciplines of Execution. It's a book that was written. That's one of the guys that wrote it, Jim Hewling, is my professional coach. And it subscribes to this model, which is I'm going to create one wildly important goal. One. So I'm not having more than one goal. It's one single goal. And I make a list of all of the things I'd like to achieve. And then I look at which one will knock down a bunch of the other dominoes in this list. So I pick the one, and then I really have no more than 2 lead measures that I do on a daily or weekly basis. And so I take those lead measures and I will look at what is the activity, what is the lead measure that will give me the lag measure of my WIG at the end of the 90 days. And I make a bet on those 2 lead measures that they're going to move the needle. And if they don't move the needle, then I adjust the lead measures, but I don't ever adjust the goal. And so I think that focus, like I wake up and I score a wig board once a week that says, hey, Tricia, you talked to this many people and you had this many consults and this is how many clients you have. And to get to a higher number next week, we're going to have to increase this potentially, and we're going to have to increase this, but this is what I'm focused on every single week. And so that level of focus, not only about the goal, but about the 2 things that will move the needle, because I can't do anymore. You think about, I want to lose 20 pounds could be your wig. Exercise and diet can be your lead measures, and you can't do any more than that. Like I couldn't incorporate anything more than that. So
it's too hard to track more than 2 measures too.
It is. And there's, all kinds of statistics that say when you have more than one goal, what is your success rate versus your failure rate? And the more goals you have, the less you succeed overall. The very first business plan I ever wrote was like 14 pages long. I did it with this like consultant model and blah, blah, blah. I remember rolling it out to my team and their eyes glazed over. I was on like page 3 and they were like, there's more pages? Who's going to do all this? And when we went to the 4DX model, it was like, here's our one goal for the year. Here's our 2 lead measures. This is what everybody's focused on for a year. And they were like, got it. Everybody could say it to other people. Everybody, so it's not only a great individual, I'm an individual entrepreneur structure. It's a great structure for a team of people who are trying to accomplish the goal as well.
I love that so much. I am one of those people with a very busy brain.
Yeah.
That's constantly generating new ideas. Yeah. And I always perceived choice as limiting, constraining, restrictive. I thought I have so many interests, so many goals, so many plans. I want to do all the things. I couldn't possibly just focus on one thing. Let's be honest, how many of those wonderful, brilliant ideas were ever accomplished? Executed. They weren't, because there was always the next one that came along. And I always say the best idea I ever had is the one I'm about to have next, because as soon as the new shiny pops up, it obscures the previous one. And then it's chase. So, you listened to my Podversary episode.
I did.
And thank you for that. And it was really the story of choosing to focus on one thing and learning what is possible. And, I've had people give me so much feedback over the years. It's a lot easier to kick one soccer ball 6 times than to kick 6 different soccer balls.
That's right.
I'm like, I don't play soccer. Why are we talking about this? But the reality is, you have to focus if you want to reach the goal. There are so many things competing for our time and our energy and attention now more than ever. And without that focus, we're never going to reach there.
And Diane, how much trust did you build with yourself that you are 52 weeks, right? How much trust did you build with yourself that you can set the next goal? There's so much trust and credibility that we, so much self-esteem and self-concept that we get when we really accomplish something and finish it. And that feeling, there's nothing that replaces that feeling. But now what you could probably think I could do 10 million things so I have this little process that I do where I have something on my phone all the time. I keep a wish list wish. And every time I have one of those ideas, I add it to the wish list so that when I sat down this morning and did a 6-month review of the first 6 months of this year, and I pulled back out my wish list and I said, okay, I'm still not done with what I committed to do over this first 6 months. So let me hold on the wish list, but I've got all my links. It's out of my brain so I can download it and get it on paper somewhere. And I'll come back to that next time. So maybe when I decide if I'm going to start a podcast next year, you and I will be fast friends on podcasting. But it's like, that's been something I've thought about. And then I thought, do I really want to do something every week? I don't know if I really want to do something every week.
But my dear, trust me, if you decide to do it,
yes, I
will absolutely help you. And I will show you a way to do it where you do not have to do it every week so that it stays fresh. And there's no reason why you can't do a sprint when you have the right systems and then you take a break. Your audience won't know because you batch record ahead and you keep releasing.
Yeah.
but you're not actively working on it every single week because it wouldn't be fun anymore if you
Well,
did.
you make it look really easy. I don't think that most people would find it as easy as you make it look. I think you've got a little knack for podcasting. It's a good sweet spot for you.
Well, thank you for that. And I think I told you in the pre-chat that my original career goal was to be an investigative reporter.
Yes.
I got some bad advice from a guidance counselor and did not go in that direction. I try never to have any regrets because everything I've done in my life has brought me to this moment.
Yeah, that's right.
But I really do like meeting new people, getting to know them, asking questions, going deeper. It's super fun. And, we're still, unfortunately, in the pandemic. So this is a way that I can meet wonderful people. And this is fabulous. You and I would have never met.
I know it.
Probably if it hadn't been for this. And we're like besties now. So before we say goodbye, I want you to tell everyone listening about your wonderful community, because I would be very surprised if there isn't somebody in here who's like, wow, I wonder what I'd be capable of if I started hanging out with somebody like this, because your mindset, your ultimate confidence in yourself, your expectation that what you do will be successful, like you need to be leading women.
Oh, I love it. I love it. It's my favorite place to be. So Thrive Her is really how entrepreneurial women turn their real world professional experience into a thriving coaching, consulting, or service-based business. That's what we do. And we've created a platform called the Thrive Her Passport, which gets women through this, what we call the Thriver 5, these 5 steps to get to building a business successfully. And then we provide kind of a combination of coaching, content, and community to make sure they're fully supported to get there. So women that are in our program always make back their investment. The results have been staggering, quite frankly, with what women have done. One of our women has made 5 times as much revenue as she had for the last 3 years in her business since joining ours. Another has done a 6-figure consulting project in the first 90 days. Like we just have some amazing women. But I will tell you more than anything else, it's a community of, I call it goal-getting go-givers. It's like people who really are goal-oriented, but are super big-hearted and super generous. And they're seasoned professionals. They're 20, 30 years of experience. So they're not coming as baby entrepreneurs. They're coming with a lot of experience and a lot to offer. And so you get this rich tapestry of all these women contributing to each other to help each other thrive, which has just been one of the best things ever. So for your audience that's interested in it, it's thrive-her.com/ready for takeoff. That's what our program is.
I love that. I'll make sure we link to that in the show notes. Ready for takeoff. I use a lot of driving analogies, like jump starts and driving instructions and stuff, but ready for takeoff, just imagining, it's especially amazing considering how many women, especially now as a result of COVID, who have been shown the door and thank you for your 20, 30 years of service. And they're like, I can't retire. It's like, this is unretirement.
Yes, that's right. And this could last for a lot of them forever, as long as they want to work. I mean, there's the way they're creating their lives and structuring their businesses, this is something that's very freedom focused, financially rewarding and freedom focused at the same time. And they're making a great impact on the people that they serve. So it's fun to watch all of those payoffs for these women who felt, quite frankly, shown the curb and kicked out of their companies and have so much to offer. So it's really been fun to watch them rebuild their self-esteem and their confidence and really rediscover what they're fantastic and fabulous at, and be able to take a step in that direction with being able to make all the decisions, all the choices, all of the things. So it's a ton of fun. We'd love to have some of your audience members join us.
Last question for you today, Tricia. Do you believe any woman can learn to become an entrepreneur? I know we both feel that there are natural traits, but can any woman who wants to become an entrepreneur?
That is such a great question. We teach this thing called the Thriver 5, which I think anybody can learn and learn pretty quickly if you're committed to learning them. And to me, entrepreneurship, when you break it down, is a common set of practices and processes that I think anybody can learn. You've got to have a heart and you've got to have the resilience. So can they learn it? Everybody can learn it. Do you have the resilience and the mindset? That is what coaching is for, I think. I think because, everybody can say, step one, start a Facebook group. And here's the 7 steps to start a Facebook group. But can somebody be okay when it's crickets for every post for the first 6 months and nobody responds back to them and they're like, is anybody listening to me? Do I have anything to say? Nobody thinks what I'm saying is valuable. You have to get past that, which is, I think, where the coaching becomes a critical part, and the community of people who say, I'm 6 months ahead of you, and I promise I was right there where you were before.
Yes.
You're not a special snowflake. You're normal. This is normal. We try to do a lot of normalizing of failure, and that failure is the path, the only path to success. That success is actually a crappy teacher. But failure is really how we figure out, oh, okay, not this way. Okay, 2 steps to the left. Okay, awesome. This feels good. Okay, next big leap. Learn these 3 things. Okay, good. Next big leap. So I think everybody can learn how to be an entrepreneur. Can everybody sustain it? I think with coaching and community and sport, they can, absolutely.
I agree. And I'm absolutely with you on resiliency.
Yeah.
I am grateful for all the failures and the traumas and the losses of my life because they taught me that when bad things happen, you get through them and you go on. Nothing is going to crush you. At least nothing has yet. And I think when you haven't experienced setbacks, you don't have the confidence, like you said a moment ago. That consistency of the podcast over a year taught me to have more credibility with myself.
Yes.
Nobody.
I'm proud of you of yourself. I mean, incredibly proud.
Nobody can take that away from you because you earned it. And the resiliency is the same thing. Everybody falls down.
Yeah.
Just don't stay down.
That's right.
And it's much easier to remember that when you have a community that'll say, get up. Come on.
I love being on a coaching call when somebody says, oh my gosh, like one of our women a couple of weeks ago was in tears and she said, I'll be honest with you, and I hated to even say this to everybody, but I applied for a job and I got an offer and they were all like, what about your business? And she was like, I don't know if I can do it. And people were like, you can do it. Don't take that job. Don't take it. We were like, do you want to take that job? And so 2 ladies popped up like, remember when I had those 2 offers, I had to turn those down. I knew that wasn't the right thing for me. And one said, you remember, Jan, that I went through this too. And so she turned down her offer and kept pursuing her business. And if you weren't around people that help you level up that way, it's scary and it's vulnerable, and you tend to go back to your safe place because that's where the brain tells you it's very safe to be and that you should be. And so I think you've got to have those inspiring, supportive, leveling up kind of people in your life to get to the next level. I don't know how people do that by themselves. I think you've got to be in a community of other people who want to get there too.
I think women need community.
Okay. Last question for you, because I just read this in my book this last week about that fight or flight for men usually truly means fight or flight, that amygdala in our brain, that way that when they respond. She had said in this book that recent research has shown that women's version of fight or flight is community and closeness. That they seek community to validate, to support them through it, that's more the nature of women, which I find to be very true. When I read that, I remember I'd never read that before. I remember thinking that's my experience with women. And whether it's in my church or friendship groups or whatever, most women want to call and talk it out. Can I just please share this with you? Can I talk to you about this? We don't want to hide or fight or flight. We want to talk it out. We want to process it out loud. We want somebody to help us work our way through it, to give us some clear guidance, to show us how we're thinking, to just do all of those things. So I thought that was so interesting. I'm curious if that's been your experience with women.
Absolutely. And also, I think you've probably heard fight, flight, or freeze.
Or freeze.
Because oftentimes, if we've got a trauma response because of past history, our innate instincts to either run or defend ourselves get messed with, and we freeze. And it's the indecision and the fear of making a mistake, choosing the wrong thing, that actually is the most costly.
Yeah.
So it's, learning that just because I'm scared doesn't mean it's a no.
That's right.
And most of our fear can be dissipated when we check in.
That's right.
And we are reminded that this is normal.
So good.
It doesn't mean that you can't do this. It doesn't mean you're not cut out for this. All it means is your brain is working as it was designed to.
That's right. You're human.
How can I help you take the next step?
Yes, that's right. That's right.
This has been the most delightful conversation. I cannot believe we haven't known each other for years.
No.
And I will make sure that we link to all of the ways that people can connect with you and learn about your program in the show notes. And you are such an inspiration. You're reminding me of one of the things that I seem to be learning again and again. It really is an advantage for women to have competitive sports as part of their childhood experience. I'm really learning that women who have been part of a competitive sports team learn discipline, learn focus, learn how to deal with both failure and success, and how to be part of a team. It's really a wonderful advantage. So anybody who's listening, who's got a daughter, get her into sports right now. Well, I look forward to staying in connection with you, and thank you so much. You have really delivered a lot of wonderful value today, and I have a delightful new friend.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Hey, it's Diane. Can I be honest with you? At the beginning of each new year, I always told myself, this is the year I'm going to get my habits dialed in. This is the year I'm going to be crystal clear about my goals and I'm going to crush them. This is the year I'm going to get my shit together on every level and I'm going to do it all by myself. Been there, done that, got a whole stack of t-shirts. But it wasn't until I started working with my own coach that I realized what a difference it makes to have guidance, support, and accountability from someone who's not only like-minded, but like-brained. Yeah, I'm talking about another driven woman, entrepreneur, who also has ADHD and has got it going on. I have 2 openings in my signature one-on-one 12-week coaching program, and one of them might have your name on it. There's a link to a free consult with me in the show notes if you think this might be the year that you really get serious and go all in on an ADHD-friendly business and life. While you're thinking about that, have a listen to what one of my clients' success stories has to say about the difference it made to work with me.
Well, one thing that you helped give me insight on is how sensitive I am, and because I'm an empath, being in traffic and loud noises throughout the day, just getting to homes, that alone was really draining. And now working from home, it's like I'm able to conserve that energy, and working with the parents to really teach them kind of concepts and bigger things that have a bigger impact. Because one thing that you also mentioned was because I was working so much, I didn't have time to do the things that were meaningful to me. And that included learning, getting into the grind. You kind of just like, okay, well, I'm just going to do, instead of really stepping back and looking at, more strategic ways to have, a longer term plan.
You've been listening to the Driven Woman Podcast with Diane Wingert. Want more straight talk and strategy each week that will take you from spinning to winning? Don't forget to hit subscribe in your podcast player so you won't miss a single episode. Then head on over to the Driven Woman free and private Facebook group community. See you there.